doing cultural studies, right? So I started out wanting to look at warrior women in China, no, warrior women in cinema in general. And then my supervisor convinced me, oh no, look at Chinese cinema. And I don't speak Mandarin, so I was like, okay, never mind, yeah. But I did my PhD because I was desperate to get out of Singapore. I have a very abusive mother, and the only way in Singapore society to get out of your domestic environment, to get out of your home, was to go overseas to study. I literally begged, borrowed, and stole. I didn't have a scholarship. I actually borrowed from a friend in order to do my PhD. I worked my butt off, but also I didn't know how I was working my butt off. I was reading stuff, but then I was not reading. You know, you just sort of like, you're just reading, but then you're not understanding. That's right. And because I thought more is more. So I thought the more that I read, but I wasn't understanding, the better it was. And then I discovered years later is that it's actually the other way around. The longer you take to read something, the better it is. It's not the other way around. Yeah, it's not about accumulating, like, you know, okay, I've read this and this is my pile, but actually I don't understand a single thing. You know? You know what I mean? So, and this is where you go to like Wikipedia and go, what did Homi Baba just say? We've all done it, you know? And that was my weird journey. And so when my supervisor, actually, she and I she just hated me for some strange reason, just really didn't like me. And when she used FUCK on my work, she was like, what is this? And that was the last straw, because I knew something was wrong in our relationship, where the day before our meetings, the day itself and the day after, I used to have 3-day migraines. Because I'm Asian and I don't want to rock the boat. And but until she used the 4-letter word on me, I thought, no, this cannot go on anymore. And so I went, and you have to cover your own backside, right? So I went to see a counselor on campus, literally cried my eyes out, and she also said, look, you need to leave, right? And so what I did was I started looking in my own university, and I found 2 very motherly supervisors in the history department. Love history. So, and I ended up, you know, getting my PhD in history. And what pushed me, you know, it was still easy to join the town. What pushed me along was and in all total honesty, right, it's my also ego. I wanted DR before my name. I wanted doctor before my name. You know, and that really pushed me. No, I also didn't want to go back to my mother. But my mother hated the PhD, right? Because she felt that the PhD was. I was also first in generation, first in family. First in family to get a degree, first in family to get a PhD. Now my cousins, bless them, and all my aunts and all that uncles are very proud of me, but they don't actually know how to relate to me. They're like, what are you doing? Because they've never gone to that level, right? And I love them to death, but they, what they like to do is they like to tell people, oh, our cat, you know, is an associate professor, but then they don't know what that translates to. So whenever I'm back in Singapore and I see them, I become this agony aunt, so I just sit there and listen to all their problems, you know, because they think that that's my job, which I'm happy to do. You like people once a year, that's okay. Once a week, that's problematic, right? But at the same time, and I was saying Christian and Wutam just the other night, that the PhD doesn't define you. My doctorate, right, was in, at the end it was in the reception of, it was on gender, it was on the reception of the woman warrior in Chinese language cinema, you know? And in all honesty, right, for 2 years I tried to publish that bloody thing as a book, and no publisher wanted it. But what I did was I mined it to death. I had 6 journal and chapter publications from it. So you never give up. It like hurt me a lot, and I was so disappointed myself that I couldn't publish it as a book. But then what happened was that I just published as much as I could, and then I started getting, interested in stuff that I was really interested in, because during a PhD, you realize that you're so passionate about that topic when you begin, and then you realize when you're doing it, you're going, I hate this. This is like, I hate this. It's like, those of you are mothers, right? Gestation takes, period 9 months, right? This is like 4 or 5 years, it's really painful. It's like, oh, it's never coming out. And so I started writing about identity, about race, in places like Singapore, in Australia. But like for me, right, I grew up as a minority because I'm what you call Eurasian. It's a political term which the British couldn't decide about mixed race people, right? And I recently did my DNA and test, and I'm like literally mixed up. The only thing that I'm so disappointed about is that apparently I don't have any DNA from Africa. What the hell? I've got like Northeast Asia, I've got South Asia, I've got Native America, I don't know where that came from. I've got Welsh, I've got White Russian, I also don't know where that came from. I've got Polynesian, got everywhere except Africa, which is so disappointing. I'm so disappointed about that. But and so I grew up also in a family that was very racist. I go to family gatherings. All my aunts will be saying things like, oh, those Chinese just take away jobs, that kind of thing. And because Singapore is 80% Chinese, and she'll say these things in front of her Chinese daughter-in-law. So that's the kind of racial sort of like environment. And so a lot of my work is about race. It's about ethnicity. It's about how those kind of factors play very much part of their everyday life. And so I started writing more about that and researching more about that. And then I was very blessed to get a huge fellowship from the Australian Research Council, and I had $345,000 for a 3-year project, and that made me so happy because that was my career high, so many levels, because I didn't get a scholarship, but the Australian government felt that I was good enough to get one of the most prestigious fellowships in Australia. It was a 15% success rate. I competed with about 2,000 people who were doing things like cancer research. Wow. And I was looking at migration. So what I basically then did, and still reeling from the fact that no one wants to publish me as a, my book, I used my 3 years. I did a lot of data collection, ethnographic, and we can talk about that more as well, and how to do that. And then I started publishing my books. My first book came out in 2015, and it was basically it was the labor of love. I was talking about ethnic and foreign anxiety in Singapore. It was a small publisher, but that was like